morning, everybody. How's everyone doing this morning? This morning we have a very special guest from our Otero community. This is Darlene Derbigny. She is a native of Junta and an alumni of Otero College before the name change, or OJC before the name change, now Otero. She has traveled the globe and chose to live in Junta after spending 27 years in New York City. She is a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. She enjoys giving back to her community by volunteering and serving on different boards. Everyone, please help me welcome Ms. Darlene.
That Greeks, Germans, Jews, Italians, Mexicans, and everybody but me down south can ride in the trains, streetcars, and buses without any fusses. But when I come along, pure American, they get a sign up for me to ride behind. Colored. My folks and my folks' and their folks' before have been here 300 years or more. Yet any foreigner from Polish to Dutch rides anywhere he wants to and is not subject to such treatments as my fellow men give me in this land of the free. Dixie, you ought to get wise and be civilized and take down that colored sign for Americans to ride behind. That introduction was from Langston Hughes, who is a great American poet. My name is Darlene Derbigny, as I put on the board because I wanted everybody to know my name. I came to talk about how my family arrived in Colorado. Many people have the, I don't know where they got the idea that not too many black people should be in Colorado or the northern cities. Some people still think that today. So I want to tell you about how I got there. My grandmother, Lula Mae Sadler Craig, was born August 12, 1868 in Platte County, Missouri. She lived a long time. She didn't die until 1972 in Manzanola, Colorado. She was 104 years old when she died. Married to my grandfather, Sanford Gustav Craig, who I never met. He died before I was born. Lula's parents, my great-grandmother, lived under bondage. I don't like to say she was a slave, but she lived under bondage. Now, there are some people who think, oh, we shouldn't talk about slavery anymore. It's finished, it's over and done with. Well, if I'm standing here in front of you alive and well to tell you that my great-grandmother lived under bondage, wasn't that long ago? Okay, Lula got married at 18 years old, and the family, after Emancipation Proclamation, I had that on my poster. Because we have a whole lot of documents and dates and so forth that deal with freedom. But does that freedom extend to blacks and people of color? I mean, yeah, there's a Declaration of Independence. Did that affect the people who were in slavery? Civil War, 1861 to 1865. And then finally the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. And we were still in some sort of bondage. So they called them the exodusters. They exited the South after slavery ended. They left for economic reasons, obviously. And because they would have been in a worse condition than they were before. They needed security. They wanted to get away from vigilantes. They wanted to get away from the KKK. Like anybody else, we all want the same things. They wanted to improve their status. And they wanted land. And they had spiritual motivation. So there was the Homestead Act of 1862. And they took advantage of that. There were lots of plans trying to get people to get on board, pay your money, come, let's go to Kansas, let's go west, where the life is much better. So the Homestead Act was advertised, and you would get 160 acres of land. You had to live on it, work it, farm it for at least 5 years, but then it was your land. So my grandmother and her family arrived in Nicodemus in 1879. Around that time, Nicodemus had about 400 population. Lula's now about 11 years old. Now, the trip there was hard, and some people didn't make it. Some people ended up getting stranded and having to stay in the other states. St. Louis was one, because they just didn't have the means to make it. So my family didn't have a lot, but they did have a wagon and a horse, so they had some means. When they got to Nicodemus, you know, they're all happy and excited, you know, you're sort of like looking for the promised land. But when they get there, they see nothing. They don't see any buildings. They don't see any houses. All they see is smokestacks sticking out of the ground. The people were living in dugouts, which is basically just a hole in the ground. So Nicodemus became an all-black city because the whites didn't really want blacks to live with them or near them. So they founded their own city, and that was Nicodemus. And conditions were bad in Nicodemus. The Native Americans were friendly, helped them, brought them food, tried to show them what they could eat. And in these dugouts, they didn't even have firewood. They had to go around and hunt for whatever was out on the prairie, old weeds and dried up roots or whatever, to burn that to stay warm. Nicodemus is located in northeast Kansas on Highway 24, north of Highway 70. It is now a national historic spot in our country. So every year they have a huge family reunion there. Everybody is welcome. If you ever want to do something exciting, go to that reunion. It's the same time every year, the last week in July. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Lula's education. Lula actually was a contemporary of George Washington Carver. They were pen pals, and they went to school together. She graduated from State Teachers College in Emporia, Kansas, and taught grades 1 through 8, which was rare for a woman. She served on the Nicodemus election board. She got married when she was just 18 years old, and about that time, they wanted to better themselves again. And so they ended up going to Colorado. They had hoped that the train was coming through, the railroad. They were hoping that it would go near Nicodemus, and that would solve a lot of their economic problems. But it didn't. It took another route. So they moved to Colorado in 1950, the Sadlers and the Craigs. Lula's now 47 years old, and she's had 9 children. A couple of them, of course, died when they were very young. But I had the luxury of growing up with a big family, with lots of aunts and uncles and cousins. And I have to call their names. May, Lynette, Hattie, Viola, Harvey, Lucille Dye, Theophilus, Marido, who's my father, and Tara C., who died when she was very young. And the reason I'm able to be here is because I'm the daughter of Lula's youngest child and granddaughter, and only 3 of her grandchildren are left today. One is my older sister, who lives in New Jersey, and she is 12 years older than I. The other is my cousin, Alice McDonald, who lives in Manzanola, and she's 10 years older than I. So Lula became part of the settlement in Manzanola, which they often referred to as the Drive. She taught in a one-room school there. It was called Prairie Valley School. And they had one small building, and it had to serve as everything: school, church, community center, and the literary society. She helped to form the Herbert Chapel AME Church right here in La Junta, and that building is still here. Herbert Chapel. It's on 2nd Street, right where they're building the new jail. She helped found the African Methodist Episcopal Church here in La Junta. The building was actually built in 1921. If you pass by there, you'll see that it's a very pretty light beige brick building. It's been vandalized, but some people are trying to restore it. One of my aunts, May Kroll, was a minister in that same church. Unfortunately, many people left the tribe during the 30s and the Depression, but my family remained there until the 1970s. The buildings that were left were vandalized, burned, shot out. Lulu was also a writer. She kept notes, and her notes are still on file at the Kenneth Spencer Research Library at the University of Kansas. Many people still use those to do their doctoral dissertations, their master's thesis, just to do research. She always wrote and kept notes. Based on her notes was one book called Wagon Wheels, which I'm going to pass around that you could look at. She did not write this book. It was written based on the notes that she took. Her 102nd birthday was celebrated out on the Drive by the Harry Belafonte Enterprise. It's called a film, Happy Birthday, Mrs. Craig. And that film is still available to be purchased if anyone is interested in that. And that was a a big deal there. Okay, so I said she had 9 children. 7 of them survived. I won't even begin to say how many great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren she has. I wouldn't be able to do that. Her words to live by were, be informed. Obviously, she liked to read and was educated. She had next to her chair a little magazine rack, and one of her favorite magazines was U.S. News and World Reports. She said, you have to know what's going on in the world. And she always said, keep the land. Never sell the land. Be independent. Do your best. If somebody asks you to do a job and you can't do it, don't say that you can. And if you take the job, do your very best. Another one of her favorite ones was, we are family. We are one. And I'm sure that's how they were able to make it through with these, the hard times and travel and living in holes, is because of the family support and their religious beliefs. Now, life on the Drive was not easy, but I'm telling you from a child's point of view, okay? I always say I spent like 1/7 of my life on the Drive, because we lived in La Junta, but every weekend we would go out to Grandma's house, which was pretty exciting. I mean, you know what happens when you go see your grandmother, right? She hugs you and kisses you and tells you you're beautiful and you can do anything, and oh, you're so smart, and fill you up with food and so forth. Well, I loved going out to the country. I didn't call it going out to the Drive. I called it going out to the country. There was no water out there. There was no electricity. They had to haul water, and that was hard. Some white neighbors helped them with water. There was a highline canal, and there was a dye reservoir, which was north of Rocky Ford. But everybody knows how hard hauling water is. They did have cows, pigs, chickens, no indoor toilet. They had outhouses. Yeah, I've been in an outhouse. Yeah, I've milked a cow, and I've collected eggs, but that's about as far as I go as being a farm girl. And I love going into my grandmother's kitchen because it smelled so good. We made their own butter, churned their own butter, made everything from scratch. So as soon as you walked in, it just smelled really good. And she had this huge stove, black stove they had at that time, that had all kinds of reservoirs to hold water, and I don't know how many burners and compartments up here, and you could bake bread down here, and you could keep food warm over here. I mean, it was huge. It like took up one whole wall of the kitchen, but it was exciting. And they also had feather mattresses. I remember when nobody was looking, I'd sneak off to the bedroom so I could jump up and down on the beds. I didn't want to get caught. And then there was this really pretty porcelain vase or whatever on the floor. And I didn't know what it was, you know. I wondered what it was. I was curious. I went over to investigate and found out it was a chamber pot. So I hope everybody knows what a chamber pot is. I remember there was a mulberry tree in the yard. I could sit under the tree and eat the mulberries. And going to my grandmother's house was sort of like a little bit of going to a museum and going to Disneyland. I mean, she had a pump organ, she had all kinds of books and magazines, she had a stereoscope. I don't know if you remember the toy called the Viewmaster, where you could put in a slide and you could look at the pictures and magnify the pictures, where the old stereoscope was like a big contraption and you had to put the picture in, pull it back and forth. That's what they had at the time, but it was fun. So they had their, and of course it was a wood-burning stove. Now at night when it got cold, you know, they didn't have a heater or whatever in every bedroom. They had these irons that they heated on this big black stove and wrap them in towels and put that in the bed so that the bed would get warm. So they'd be warm for the night. And we did a lot of family things. It was a close family, close-knit. Got together, played cards, 500, singing songs, praying, just having family meetings, talking about the blessings that we had. Now, I'll go back to Nicodemus. In 1976, I said it became a National Historic Site. And what they do is, I've been a couple of times, and it's really exciting. They have all kinds of events. They have all kinds of events for children. They have medical wagons come in, doctors who get their services free. Native Americans come in to speak. They have buffalo soldiers. They have blood drives, all kinds of entertainment, and all kinds of food, booths, and they even have a fashion show. I don't get to go much anymore because it's the exact same day as my grandson's birthday. So they also have a cowboy breakfast. They have a big representation of the Black Farmers Association, games, races, and a big parade. So every weekend I said we would, my dad would say, okay, we're going to the country, and we'd all jump in the car. And you could take two routes that I know to get to the drive. You can go out Highway 10, or you can go out Highway 50 and turn on Road 11. Well, I always liked to go on Highway 10 because it was a real bumpy road. And we would drive fast and go, and then we'd say, faster, 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 you know, which was a lot of fun. I don't know, I probably left out a lot, but I wrote a little acrostic about sorry, should have used a stapler, but I don't want to use a stapler. My poem about Lahaina is, Lahaina, my hometown, but how far have I come? Platte County, Missouri to Graham County, Kansas, 1898 to 2025. From enslavement to emancipation. Today, the here and the how. Then I wrote an acrostic for Nicodemus because it's such an important place. Nicodemus, in necessary, immigration, Colorado bound, ongoing, driving, emerging, memories united, safe and settled. My father liked to quote poetry. He was born in November, and one of his favorite ones was, "Dear old dull November, they don't speak well of you. Your winds are ever chilly, and your skies are never blue." And the other one that I really liked was, "Stop, stop, pretty water," said Mary one day to a frolicking brook that was running away. "You run so fast I wish you'd stay. My boat and my flowers you're carrying away. But I will run after, for mother says that I may." So Mary ran after, but I have to say, she never did find where the brook ran away. That was one of my father's, so I had to pay that honor to him. And then I have one more poem that's going to be my conclusion, written by Nikki Giovanni, who was just died last year, I believe, another Black poet. This one is called Ego Tripping. She's on the ego trip. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am that. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert with a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes. I crossed it in 2 hours. I am a gazelle so swift you can't catch me. For a birthday present when he was 3, I gave my son Hannibal an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built a new ark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intoned my loving name. All praises, all praises. I am the one who would save. I sewed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels deliver uranium. The filings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose, giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal. I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky. I have some pictures that I want to show you, and then if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Okay, this is at one of the outings where they were having a picnic, and a lot of my uncles and aunts are there. I don't see my, do you have a pointer? You don't have a pointer. I don't see my parents there, but I see my grandmother when she was pretty young. She's, if you look at the back row, coming from the left, there's 2 women, 1 man, and the next one you see with the dark dress is my grandmother. That's Lula. Let's go to the next one. Oh, we missed one. there one before this? Okay. Okay, so this is my Uncle Harvey. They lived in Manzanola, and that's his wife. I think this is a great picture because she's dropping a cantaloupe on his head. Now, I don't know if it hit him or not. It looks like it would hit the spot. Can we go back to the blue one? Okay. This is one of my favorite pictures of my grandmother. It shows a lot about her personality. She was soft-spoken, and when she would speak, she wouldn't speak quickly, but she spoke deliberately as if she were thinking of each word before she said it. I just think it's a beautiful picture. This is my Uncle Harvey and Aunt Roland again on the right-hand side of their house out in Manzanola, and two other people who lived out on the drive. Okay, so now you can see my grandma is the very first one holding the little girl. You can't see her face though. And her oldest daughter, Hattie Burney, is on the right. Hattie Burney was also a teacher. She taught school for a long time. And this is, I can't remember which one of my cousins, I think this is Alice with her dog. And I don't remember the dog's name. Okay, there's Alice with her dad, Harvey, their house out on the drive. This is one of my cousins, Doris Stark. They lived in Junta. And Flora May, who was Alice's sister. And this is my grandpa that I never met because he died in 1941 and I wasn't born until 1944. Okay, now this is Harvey and my grandfather up there with the bib, and my grandmother next to him, Skip the man, and then Aunt Hattie, who's one of my aunts. And below in the white shirt is Uncle Harvey, and the next one is my dad. Uncle Harvey in the white shirt was 21 years old when my dad was born. Big age family, we have 9 kids. These are my parents, my mother and father, near the time that they got married. They're standing out on the drive. This is me. We lived in Junta. I'm the taller one, and the short one is my sister, Sandra K. Craig. Some people may have known she grew up here in Junta too. Actually, Sandra K. Craig was Yaru's mother. One of my aunts, this is May Lively, the one who was the minister at the Herbert Chapel AME Church, and her son, Elba Craig. I think that's a very attractive picture. And this is Helen Dixon, who was not a relative of mine, but they lived out on the drive. Not a blood relative. It's Elba Craig again, Aunt May's son. And this one is a very stylish one. This is my Aunt Hattie and my Aunt Viola. And they lived on the drive. And another thing I liked about going to my grandmother's house was they always had the dining room table set with a tablecloth. And they always had, the rings to put around your napkin, because after you ate, it wasn't a paper napkin, it was a cloth napkin. And you folded it neatly and you put it in the ring, put it on the table. Things like that that seemed really nice. And at Viola's house, she liked to put nice little Bible verses or nice little poems or nice little sayings. I could walk from room to room and read them, and that was really nice. Oh, okay, and then you have there's a film. This is the happy birthday, Mrs. Craig. had to set up a big tent.
Everything you can about that and do the work well, and that teaches you something to do with it. But if you didn't do that, no matter how much education you had, it wouldn't help you if you wouldn't use it. So you have to use it every minute, and in the best way you can.
Happy birthday, Grandma Craig!
Yeah, I'm great-grandchild, Wilbur Craig, 102.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, I will. Happy birthday, Grandma Craig. Happy birthday, Grandma.
Grandmother, she told us many stories. How they came to Colorado, covered wagons, how they got started, dug dugouts.
Happy birthday, Grandma!
Happy birthday, Grandma!
Dear great-grandmother, I'm so happy the television people are making a film about you and your 102 years of living, and I'm glad I'm to be a part of it. Marguerite Owens on television, wow. I'm so excited about coming to see you again, you and Aunt Hattie and Aunt Viola. It will be a nice time to remember last summer and that great birthday party of yours.
A happy birthday, Mom. Thank you. A very happy birthday.
102. 102. That's 1 full century and a little bit more.
Hi, Grandma. I need you to go every minute. I didn't know.
Fine, how are you?
I'm good old times yet. I don't do quite as study you do. No. I'm doing very well.
Fine, you're all fine. My name is Marguerite Owens, and I'm here to tell you about my great-grandmother, Mrs. Lula Sadler Craig, an American woman of African descent, about her memories of the past and her hopes for our future after more than a century of living in the United States of America.
I forgot to mention that my ancestors also fought with Sherman in the Civil War. And when my grandmother died, she just went to bed one night and went to sleep. And that's my speech.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Mrs. Darlene, for coming in and giving us that great presentation on your history. Kimmy Kelly was the one that had this idea. I didn't know if she wanted to come up and say any words or kind of give a little speech. Thank you, Kimmy, as well.
Thank you. It has been just such a pleasure getting to know you as an artist, and Darlene is a fabulous artist, and still are you doing any classes now?
Not recently, I think that.
We need to get back into it. I guess we do. Sometimes we have painting classes and other classes that are open to the public, open to our community. So I have a question. So I think what I didn't know about the dry, and every time I have classes, every single year I ask students, including students who are from here, if they knew about the dry, and they don't. So many people don't know about the settlements like the dry in Nicodemus, Kansas, that are so important to our history, and so many people don't know about them. There's something I learned about today that I didn't know about was the Black Farmers Association. Can you say anything about that? Is it still?
I'm sure it's it's still functioning now. And I don't have a lot of details about it, but it's just, they need the Black Farmers Association because many times the blacks didn't get the assistance that they should have received.
You know, and something else that I share with my classes, so how many of you are aware that at one time, 1 out of every 4 cowboys was African American? Do you know that? So part of our history too is, and guess where rodeos came from? Rodeos came from African American cowboys. And one of the events especially was design that we still do to this day. So our history is important to know about not just our local history, but our American history and the rich fabric that Darlene's family and so many gave to this place. You know who? You have to go to Colorado. What Darlene?
I think that the cowboy thing is important. 1 out of every 4 is black, and then out of the rest, probably 1 was Mexican.
Absolutely. So, not that way so much anymore. Are there any other questions from the audience?
How many people in here know what a chamber pot is? Only the adults.
Only the adults. So, all right. So we didn't used to have inside restrooms. This 120 years ago, we did not. Nobody had inside restrooms. So there was this pot, had a picture on it, handle, looked like a big vase, kind of. And there were different variations of it, but that's what you went to, you were potty in. And then you dumped it outside somewhere, I don't even know where. There was something else you tried out.
So what kinds of races have you faced in your life and your grandparents? Was it really very difficult for them here in Colorado as well?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there were whites that helped them out, and then there were some that didn't help them out. So, yeah, racism is alive and well all over the United States. It's not just certain places. I don't know. Somebody asked me a question? Yes. Yes.
What brought you back to Colorado? Because when it started, it said you were in New York for 27 years. What brought you back to the area?
My parents were getting older. I like the big sky country. I love New York City. I love it. Every time the airplane would fly over and land, I felt like I had the keys to the kingdom where I just entered Disneyland. I've been back several times. But I also like Colorado, and my parents were old. I miss a lot of things from New York, obviously. I will tell you about one example of, she asked about racism, and this happened just not too many years ago. My husband and I had been to Vegas a few times. We were flying back from Vegas to Denver, and we didn't get our seats together, and I was sitting next to a white man. And we started chatting and talking, and he said, well, how did you get to Colorado? And I said, oh, I was born here. And we talked a little bit more, and then he said, but how did you end up in Colorado? And I said, well, I'm a native of Colorado. He simply could not fathom that black people lived in Colorado. It troubled him so that he asked me about it 3 times. Thank you very much.